So our next stop in the evolution of drum set and drum set playing is the year 1917. Now this was the year that a band from New Orleans called the Original Dixieland Jass Band went up to New York City and made some recordings that became huge hits all over the country. And the style that they were playing was a style from New Orleans, and it sort of kicked off what we call jazz music. It was really the first jazz, official jazz recordings. So jazz, if you know your history at all, is a style that does indeed come from New Orleans. And there's a lot of bands in New Orleans at the time that were making this kind of music. And it was kind of cool because a lot of the things that we've talked about so far in our discussion of at various points along the way here in our journey are now coming together. So from a drumming perspective, you have guys like Baby Dodds and Zutty Singleton, Ray Baduke, a guy named Tony Sbarbaro, who was the drummer in the original Dixieland Jazz Band. And what they're doing is taking this idea of marching, right, that we talked about, but now combining your bass drum and your snare drum and some of these, what were called traps from these different immigrant groups that were coming in, little cymbals, little tom-toms, woodblocks, cowbells. And they started bringing all that together with this rudimental style of playing and combining it with ragtime, which had been popular for a couple of decades now, which was more syncopated and more swinging. So now drumming really starts to move away from the rudimental thing and kind of turn into its own little thing, jazz drumming style. So that's all happening around this time period. Now our drum set has grown just a little bit to add some of these elements known as traps. And we could point some of them out. Certainly woodblock, which originated actually in China and Korea. Cowbell, which is used in a lot of cultures. This is a Turkish type of a cymbal. It's actually an old Zildjian cymbal, and the Zildjian family came to the States in the early 20th century. So they were one of those immigrant groups. So this is an early example of their cymbal. And we have a Chinese cymbal here, actually made in China. It's a newer one. It's not a vintage one, but this is, you know, typical of what Chinese cymbals still look like today. China cymbals, they've got that inside-out garbage can look. So the early drum set players from New Orleans would incorporate all of these kind of elements into what they were playing. Now, how did they play? Well, they took a lot of those rudiments and they started swinging them. And maybe before you'd have a nice, clean, open roll, shugga-dugga-dup, would now become da-jizz-up, jizz-up. So it become more of a press roll, and that sort of was more swinging and, again, made people want to dance. So we still have our two-feel kind of military thing going on. We don't have any hi-hats yet or big toms or ride or crash cymbals, but we've got these smaller kind of noise-making effects, and drummers would start to play fills on these. They were called fill-ins. So here's a little demonstration of what New Orleans drumming might have sounded like back at the time. Who could tell me what made a drum set a drum set?
The low boy.
Kick pedal. Match grip.
The sock cymbal.
My name is Daniel Glass. I'm a drummer, author, and educator. In 1994, I joined a band called Royal Crown Revue. We were trying to figure out how to take the rebellious spirit of modern styles like punk and put it into big band and other roots music. We found out it was already there. I've been absorbed in this world ever since. I started researching the evolution of the drum set and the way that we play it. In the last dozen years, I've interviewed more than 60 different legendary drummers. I came to a startling conclusion. Perhaps more than any other instrument, the drum set is equipped to tell the story of America and American music.
All of these immigrants coming from around the world brought their technology. Jazz music and pop music were one and the same. You could dance to it.